Dear brothers and sisters, the Bible records numerous blessings that God has promised to His children. To make these promises completely our own, we must diligently prepare our vessels. There is a condition in God giving us blessings. He says, if you do this, I will bless you. Like you don't have to be confused, and you just completely nourish yourself with the message of the Beatitudes. This is also a way to prepare vessels. You may say, as I listen to the messages on Beatitudes, isn't it only about spiritual blessings? No. If you receive spiritual blessings, your physical needs are also fulfilled. All the promises in the Bible, there are also messages about the spiritual love. And as you read the messages and cultivate your heart with it, this is a way to receiving answers. I pray in the name of the Lord that today's message will bring you great grace and power. Today is the third sermon on the Beatitudes, focusing on the blessings for the Gentile. Matthew chapter 5 verse 5 says, "Blessed are the gentle, for they shall inherit the earth." Explaining the first two blessings, I emphasize that the verses not be understood literally. The biblical definitions of being poor in spirit and mourning differs greatly from common understanding, so it requires us to grasp the spiritual significance. Likewise, the gentleness described in the third blessing is not the same as worldly gentleness. According to the dictionary, gentleness is defined as being meek and mild in character, soft and tender, or exuding a warm and gentle feeling. In general, a gentle person is often seen as someone with a meek nature, not easily angered or overly assertive, and someone who is passive, timid, soft-spoken, or quietly attentive is also called gentle. Someone might be called kind or gentle simply because they avoid conflicts even while harboring resentment or discomfort internally. There are many of such things because we don't know another person's inner heart. And when another person hides his heart feelings and pretends to be gentle, and other people might think that person is gentle. That's why people sometimes face troubles. They think, I thought that guy was gentle, but he's the opposite. Even while suppressing anger and the desire to argue on the outside, he appears to be gentle and yielding on the outside. And people see him as gentle. Sometimes people act or speak gently to gain favor or serve their own interests. And when you are looking for a boyfriend, looking for a girlfriend, you appear to be gentle, and because you want to have a good relationship with him, and you hide your character and you sugarcoat yourself, and you act like you are a nice guy or a girl, and after people get married and they get disappointed, there are couples who say that, and some people are experts in disguising himself, and people are deceived and tempted. But you cannot deceive God. However, the gentleness God speaks of is different. It is a heart that can embrace others gently and warmly without discomfort or negative emotions. It is a heart that from such a heart. If you do something, in your relationship with others, even physical relationships, if you appear to be gentle on the outside, but later on, people find out your irritation and annoyance, then they will realize that you are not gentle anymore. Moreover, God is looking at our heart. That's why, even when our heart is gentle, we are truly gentle. It is a heart that does not harbor ill feelings or cause harm to others, but rejoices with the happy, mourns with the sad, and offers comfort. Being gentle is not just about being soft, being attentive, being a good hearer, but we are learning about the gentleness God approves. We have to achieve that. That's why we have to figure out what our shortcomings are through this message. We have to know whether we are rejoicing with the others, mourners with the sad, whether we are heartless. The Bible tells us that people in the end time are heartless. They have no affection among people. With the spiritual love, you sympathize with others and rejoice with other people's joyous occasion. This is rejoicing with the truth. This is love, spiritual love. When you rejoice with the truth, you are happy on other people's happy occasions and you sympathize with them. You have to know, let's say, someone who is not close to you and he has some happy occasion, but you don't feel anything. And whether we have and it can accept people who have a different character and tastes without conflict. People hang out to people of the same kind. If people and they don't hang out with the different kinds of people and say, we don't get along. But with the spiritual people, each person may have different tastes and preferences. But if we have a heart that embraces people of different kinds, we have a big heart. This is one of the attributes of gentleness. Let's say you like bland taste, but other people may like salty flavor. But people with gentleness can embrace people of different tastes. And it's not even about the sin and evil. There are also people with a different character who but people with gentleness can embrace even the person with a rough character. This is why they are gentle. But some people may think that person is very difficult to be with. That means he's not gentle. People talk about differences of character, personality, differences of preferences, differences of taste. Of course, you may have people whom you are more feel comfortable with, but if you keep away people of different kinds, that means you have a lot to fix in yourselves. You have to embrace and accept people of this kind or that kind.
매사에 상대의 입장에서 이해하며
It is a heart that does not judge or condemn others, but seeks to understand them from their perspective and serves with humility.
솜에
This kind of heart is like cotton.
예를 들어
Imagine throwing a stone
돌을 던졌다고
both at cotton and at a hard object.
솜은 잘 알죠. 그런데
You know cotton.
이렇게 물건을 요즘에는
When
이렇게 솜 사용하는 일들이
We don't use cotton very.
저도 어렸을 때는 요즘 뭐
Cotton is not usually used in our daily life. But in my childhood, we used cotton in the blanket. We people put cotton in the blankets, and before winter came, my parents and they got they got cotton from a shop and to put it in the blanket. And they were when I was young, I really like to lie down on the cotton. When my mother was working on the blanket, when there was cotton around, it was comfortable lying down on the cotton. I think adult generation have this memory. When when you got injured and when you were bleeding, people used cotton. But nowadays, people use different materials rather than cotton. And that's why people of younger generation may not be familiar with cotton. Just think about fluffy blanket or something soft. If you throw a hard object into that cotton or that soft material, a stone thrown at metal makes a loud clanging sound and bounces off. When thrown at glass, it shatters with a loud noise. Don't think about the bulletproof glass, but just the regular grass. There are many kinds of grass, strong grass nowadays, but in the past, glass made a loud noise when they were shattered. Similarly, a person filled with pride and self-centeredness reacts harshly when things don't go their way. Namely, if you have a strong character or hard character, you cannot embrace others. But if you are gentle character, you can embrace whomever comes to you. Similarly, a person filled with pride and self-centeredness reacts harshly when things don't go their way. It's not just about person. When in our daily life, in our workplace, in your family, in your church, each person has different ways of handling things. And you may have a situation that doesn't agree with your thoughts. Some situations may be give you disadvantage, or you may feel frustrated about something. We have to check whether you are responding in gentle way or harsh way. However, no matter how many times you throw a stone at a cotton ball or poke it with a stick, it makes no sound and simply observe the impact. Since a gentle person has a heart like cotton, he can live in peace with everyone, no matter the circumstance. I explained about the gentleness, but you have to apply that in your life. A stone is thrown. Like when you get rebuked, when you get reproached, when you hear about a gossip,
좀 이렇게 표현이 바르지 못해서
Some people may have a rough way of speaking. You may think of, even so, if you are gentle, you just accept and embrace them.
나랑 성격이 맞는 사람, 나를 응원하고 칭찬하는
You-
사람만 있어서가 아니라 꼭 나에게 딴지 거는 사람도
Even those people who
사람도 있고
finds faults with you or gives a rebuke,
뭔가 내가 부족한 거
and
있으면 막 그렇게 지적만
they
하는
are-
사람도 있을 수 있고요.
when you have some
그러면 좀 마음이
shortcomings,
어려워.
they quickly come to you and point it out, and you may feel upset, and you feel the need to fill your heart with the Lord's love. You have to apply the message in you.
싫었던
in-
것, 내가 저 사람과
You remember those moments whom
미워, 싫어.
when you wanted to avoid some person and you hated some person,
성격이 달라서 저 사람과는 안 맞아.
and you give an excuse that that person has a different character from you, so you kept away from him. But this is because you are lacking gentleness.
나아가 이런 부드럽고
When such a gentle and mild heart is combined with virtue,
이러한 마음에
it becomes the perfect gentleness that God desires.
원하시는 온전한 온유라 할 수 있습니다. 자, 여기서 덕이란
Well, so what is virtue? Virtue is described as fairness, broad understanding of others, actions that align with decency, and a character that influences others.
시키는 일 등이라 설명합니다. 영적인 덕의
The same applies spiritually.
있습니다. 따뜻한 마음으로
Even if a person has a heart that
마음이 있어도
Even if a person has a heart that can warmly embrace others, if their actions are rough or they make frequent mistakes and fail to gain others' recognition, or if they are too passive, they are lacking virtue and cannot truly be called gentle.
어떤 경우는 나는 그냥
Some people-
부드러워요.
They are naive, they are
나는 지적하지도 않아요.
very meek, and they don't really point out others' mistakes, and they appear to be gentle. But they are too passive, negative about God's work, and they don't want to do anything that may bother others. That
정말 그 마음이
they cannot be
불편하게
called
어려운데도
gentle.
뭐 성격이 좀 느리거나 아니면 표현을 많이 안 한다. 그러면은 마음은 온유하다 하겠지만 덕이 없어서 다른 사람에게 피해를 줄 수
There are also other people who
있도
are lacking virtues. Even though they have a gentle heart, they are
필요가 있는
on
것이죠.
the
그래서 하나님의 말씀하시는 온유함은 온전한 것입니다.
and the gentleness that God talks about is a gentle, perfect gentleness. It's not just about being naive, being tender, being weak. This is not truly called gentle. You should also have virtues. So no matter where you go, you can be recognized.
이런 덕이 없으면 어떠할까요?
But if you are without virtue, you have
쉽게 농담을 낼 수도 있습니다. 마음은 뭐 선한데
If a pers-
지금처럼 막 말을 시끄럽게 하고 막 떠들고 성격이 거칠고 마음은 온유한데 또
Even if a person has a gentle heart,
마음은 부드러운데
even if a person has a gentle heart, he may
뭐 부족함이 있다라고 한다면 그래서 농담도 많이 쉽게
he have he jokes a lot. He
신뢰하기가 어렵습니다.
that's why he cannot win trust of others.
온유가 될 수 없는 것입니다.
That's why he cannot be
상대를 사랑하고
acknowledged
권면한다고
as
해도
gentle by God.
가르치는 자세, 주장하는
If a person is rough in words or frequently make jokes, they won't earn trust from others even when they give advice out of love.
앞서가는 일꾼들을
If they do in a commanding or assertive tone, they are lacking virtue and unable to bring about change in others.
뭐 악은 없어요.
Church workers, you may think you have no evil or
그렇게 살아왔던
but
이것이 큰
the way you
문제라고
speak
생각하지 않고
has a problem, but they don't realize that they have
판례가 되어지면 겉모습도 바뀌게 되는 것이 당연한 이치입니다만은 어쨌든 좀 부족해서
anyway, they have some shortcomings in how they speak and act. This is because they are lacking virtues, so they have to fix. They may say, I don't have ill feelings, but it's just my habit, it's just my way of things. But you have to fix even those habits, even those ways. They have to diligently fix them.
사는 게 아니라 남을 위해 살아야 하는 것이
You have to-
진리이니 이런
the
것들을
truth
여러분들이
tells us to,
고치면 더 좋은 것이지요. 뭐 예를 들어 육체의 결여.
for example,
나한테 피안
you may have
좋은
deficiencies of the body.
나는
You
뭐 편식을 합니다.
you
편식하면 내 건강에 뭐
are like
이
a
부분
picky
안
eater.
먹으면
You don't like
그냥
this
내가
food and that food.
내가 불편한 거지
and
생각합니까? 그러나 또 그렇지도 않죠.
You may-
시간을 차려주시는 뭐 상대.
But
아니면 어디
if you are picky eater, you are not considerate of the person who are making meals.
남을 위해서도 고치고 또
You have
이렇게
to
말씀하신
fix yourself
부족한
for
것을
others.
채워가고
You have to feel your shortcomings, and with
세상에서도
such efforts,
멋진 사람이 될 수 있어요.
before God or even before worldly people, you will turn into a wonderful person, not just in church, but in other places like family, workplaces, and businesses. If you cultivate yourself with the word of truth, you don't. Once you become perfect, you can become the head. Even out in the world, you can win recognition, win compliments, and become successful, even out in the world. But if you
못하면 그 안에서는 부족하기 때문에 세상에서도 더 인정받지 못하고 사랑받지 못하는 것이죠. 그러니 교회 다녀서 착하기는 한데
You may say,
이런 거는 좀 답답해. 이런 말 들으면 안 되잖아요. 그러니 온유함을 참으로 깨달아서
you have to understand what truly gentleness is. You have to not only should you have gentleness of your heart, and but also have virtues.
온유한 사람은 불편한 일이나 이해되지 않는 상대라 해도 불편하게 생각하지 않고 어찌하든 이해합니다. 또한 상대에게
Even in uncomfortable situations or with difficult people, a gentle person does not think negatively but try to understand them. He also does not act rudely. He patiently waits for others to change, even those with weak faith or evil tendencies. He finds ways for them to do better and guides them. With meekness combined with virtue, he can lead others to change. This is what God truly wants. We- Ability to change others. This comes from gentleness. This is one of the because we are gentle, we are capable of changing others. But if you're not perfect, if you you-
상대는 못 받아요. 덕이 없어서라든가 사랑이 온전하지 않아서 상대가 받지 못할 말을 내가 지적하면서
but if you say something and other people cannot accept,
하면 이 또한도 온유함이 아닐 것이고 마음이 순하기는 한데 상대를
even if you are naive, even if you are
이 또한도 온유하지
you're-
않았기 까닭에 하나님
because you are lacking gentleness, you cannot be used greatly in God's kingdom, and you are not perfectly bearing the fruits of beatitudes.
이렇게 변화시킬 수까지 있어야
But if you truly embracing others,
마음이 불편하지
you
않으니까
have to be able to change him.
그런 것도 아니에요. 내 마음은
You
그냥
don't ignore
괜찮으니까
someone
저
because
사람은
he has a different character.
내가
If you
어떡하겠어?
don't
그거는 진정한 덕이 아니기
look
때문에
away
온유함이
because
아닌 것이죠. 하나님이 원하시는 온유함은
the kind of gentleness that God wants is not just embracing someone, but has the ability to change him. Rather than speaking roughly or talking too much, he says only what is necessary. As he treats others with warmth and kindness, he earns the love and respect of many. A gentle person can understand those who hate and criticize him without harboring negative emotions or feeling hurt. This is also important to think about. Let's say someone harasses you and you feel distressed and you feel agonized, you feel hurt. That also indicates that you have a small vessel. Even if you throw stone at an ocean, nothing changes in the ocean. But if you throw stone in a fish tank, water would splash and the fish tank would break. If you feel agonized and distressed, that means your heart vessel is very tiny and you are lacking gentleness.
불편한 마음이 되는 것이 아니라
When receiving constructive feedback, they do not feel discomfort but accept it as it is. This is what a person with virtue and gentleness would be like. A person who has achieved such a perfect gentleness does not have clashes with others, but understands and embraces their shortcomings.
많은 사람의 마음을
In doing so, they can ultimately win the hearts of many and bring about change.
이러한 온유한 마음이
What should we do to develop
어떻게 해야 할까요?
this kind of heart? We must diligently cultivate our heart fields. The Bible compares our heart to a field. Just as a farmer cultivates his field into a field of good soil by removing thorns and stones, we must weed our hearts of evil, such as hatred, envy, and judgment.
정죄 등 악을 벗어버리면 온유한 마음을
By doing so, we can cultivate a gentle heart.
성경에 보면
In the Bible, God gave someone
온유함을 칭찬하시는
special credit for his gentleness.
모세입니다.
He was Moses.
민수기 12장
Numbers
3절에
chapter 12, verse 3 tells us, Now the man Moses was very humble, more than any man who was on the face of the earth. Moses led the Israelites through 40 years of hardship to the promised land of Canaan.
과정에서 힘들고 어려운 상황들을 많이 겪었습니다. 여러분이 한 선교회
If you are in charge of any mission or district in the church, you will encounter all kinds of people and situations. Like, if you are become a cell leader or just a small group leader, as you take care of them, each person has different ways of understanding and you may feel frustrated. I think you have this experience. There are complainers, critics, gossips, troublemakers, the disobedient, and those who spread false rumors. Many kinds of people. The Israelites who left Egypt numbered over 2 million, including women, children, and the elderly. While embracing all of them and leading them through the harsh wilderness, Moses must have faced many challenges. Despite witnessing numerous signs and wonders that God manifested while accompanying Moses, the evil people made all kinds of complaints whenever they found themselves in trouble. Blaming Moses for their hardships, they even attempted to stone him at times. The Israelites themselves asked God to deliver them out of Egypt, and God saved them and by sending Moses to them, and they safely went out of Egypt, and they were free, no longer a slave, but in the process to receive blessings, they definitely went through difficulties, but they claimed that they were happier as slaves. So they are very incoherent. Moses had to lead them continually. He had to give them advice. He spent 40 years like that. That means Moses was so spending 40 years with such a people, teaching and guiding them shows how gentle Moses truly was. It was because of his meekness that God dearly loved and guaranteed him. God accompanied him with amazing power, and when anyone opposed Moses, even his own family, God did not tolerate it. However, there's an interesting point. Moses was complimented, but when Moses saw the people worshiping idols after receiving the 10 Commandments, he became angry and threw down the stone tablets. He threw down the stone tablets where God inscribed the 10 Commandments and broke it, shattered them. Other than this, there were times when he got enraged and rebuked the people. It's important to discern between worldly gentleness and spiritual gentleness.
장면들은 육으로 볼
These
때는
scenes,
엄청 거리가 먼 것 같단 말이에요. 그런데 하나님은
from these scenes,
모세를
he is far
온유함으로
from
칭찬하셨으니
gentle
온유함에 걸리는 게
from a physical
아니거든요. 지금
perspective.
모세의 행동들이
Like
하나님께서 보실
he,
때 이건 도리어 그가 칭찬받을 만한 일이었다
but
하시는데요. 모세는 분명 온유한
Moses was obviously a meek person, but when he had to teach in the truth, he was strict. When the people severely sinned against God, he strongly rebuked them with rage. This reflects God-centered faith and gentleness with virtue. So that's why you need to have virtue. So when you have to be strict, you are strict. When you see people going to the way of death, you lead them. But if you are just have a gentle heart, you just say, "Oh, you shouldn't do that." And other people don't obey you, and they keep going the way of death, and they keep sinning. But if you just treat them with kindness alone, then they will keep going their way. That's why you have to be strict, and you have to guide them back to the way of life. This is true love. That's why gentleness should include virtue, and what Moses did was the example of his true gentleness. At times, even Jesus, who was extremely gentle, spoke harshly to the hypocritical scribes and Pharisees, calling them brood of vipers. Seeing people who defiled the temple, Jesus overturned the tables and drove out the animals with a whip. While a truly gentle person embraces many with a tender and warm heart, he is stronger and more courageous than anyone when he has to be in the truth. Because of Moses' genuine gentleness, God said in Numbers chapter 12, verse 7, "He is faithful in all my household," acknowledging his faithfulness and ardent passion for God's kingdom. However, in the church, some may appear gentle, but they are not recognized as gentle by God. These individuals do not bear spiritual fruit in the salvation of souls or their duties because their gentleness is not spiritual. As mentioned earlier, if someone is simply introverted or mild by nature, this is not the kind of gentleness that pleases God. Even while seeing untruth, if a person compromises to avoid conflict and lacks love or righteousness towards God and the church, he cannot be truly recognized as gentle. Some may be quiet and mild by nature, but lack passion for faithfulness. While people may consider them gentle, this is not spiritual gentleness. It's difficult for these individuals to receive answers and blessings. However, those with spiritual gentleness have a heart filled like a field of good soil. So, anything sown can quickly bear fruit. They can promptly achieve sanctification and are quick to bear the fruits of light, spiritual love, and the Holy Spirit like fertile soil, yielding abundant fruits. Their prayers and petitions to Father God are also swiftly answered. Brothers and sisters, above all, those who bear the fruit of gentleness receive God's true blessing, the inheritance of land. Inheritance refers to property or business passed down from ancestors. One's ownership of such inherited land is more firmly recognized than that of the land bought in his own generation. For example, in rural areas, those pieces of land allegedly passed down through generations would be recognized as family inheritances and rarely sold. All people in the neighborhood knew that that land belongs to a specific person and has been passed down through generations.
저렇게 선대로부터 저 사람의 뭐
They
가문
know
뭐 이런
that the land had been passed down from ancestors,
또 주인도 거지가 돼서는 그 땅을 팔지
and the
못하고
masters of such land
다시 후손에게 물려주기
rarely
위해서
sold them.
보존하지요.
They would be preserved for future generations. Moreover, the law forbade the Israelites from selling the land inherited from their ancestors. Thus, inheriting the land means receiving something firmly and securely as one's own. So, what kind of land do the Gentile inherit? I just explained about the blessings of the blessing of the gentle of the I'm talking about the glory and the land in heaven and people who are gentle does it mean that gentle would own a lot of land and become wealthy? No. No matter how much land a person obtains on earth, it cannot be taken to heaven, so it can be neither an eternal inheritance nor called a true blessing. Inheriting the land refers to receiving the land of heaven that doesn't perish or fade forever. Then, why did he say that the gentle will inherit the land in heaven? The reason is, they possess virtue and win many hearts. In the world, it looks like many people submit to those with wealth or power, but their submission is not from the heart. When they have power, as long as they have power, they want to rely on their power. But when they are without power, they all leave him. When someone seems beneficial, they cling to them. But when he is not, they all leave. In contrast, people with virtue inspire others to submit from the heart and seek rest in them. Their heart feels like vast land, and this becomes a source of authority spiritually. People who are gentle, it's not that they cause others to follow them through money but because their hearts are filled with truth, people just gather around them because they have truth. Whenever they teach something, they give grace to others, but that's why they cling to them and want to seek teachings from them. That's why people gather around the gentle. For example, if you have virtue as a cell leader or a pastor, other members naturally long to be with you. If church leaders have gentleness and virtue, the church flourishes as a result. Even in the face of disobedience or conflict, a gentle person does not isolate or ignore others. Rather, he loves, embraces, and prays for them, guiding them towards transformation and helping them become good grains anyhow. Words from a gentle and virtuous heart bring grace and strength to those who hear them. So, other people eagerly listen to his words, drawing strength to remain in the truth and grow in faith. Those who embrace many and lead them to heaven like this will receive great rewards in heaven. No wonder they will receive a bigger and grander dwelling place. To build a beautiful and vast house, a space on which to build a house is needed. A broader space is needed, which means the gentle will have a broader space. The more gentleness and virtue a person has, the greater land he will inherit. But the narrow-minded who lack gentleness, let's say you are gentle on this earth and led many people to salvation, and when you go to heaven, those people in heaven, they are very thankful towards you because you saved them, you share the gospel with them, and you guided them to grow in faith. So they remain thankful forever. They they considered you a lifesaver, and you wanna. They wanna visit you. They wanna be close to you in heaven. Let's say you lead a lot of people to salvation and in the truth, and when you go to heaven, you wouldn't you want to go to the shepherd's dwelling? Not just once. You want to go there frequently as possible, and you want to even dwell there. When church workers, if you're gentle and lead many people in the truth, people would want to gather around you and flock to you. And that's why God has to give such gentle people a broader space and broader house. This is also, the reason for that. In contrast, the narrow-minded who lack gentleness and are unable to embrace others will now receive a vast piece of land in heaven. As for those residing in the lowest level of heaven, the paradise, since they remain at the beginner level of faith, being unable to embrace others, cast off sins, and attain gentleness, they cannot receive land as an inheritance. From the first kingdom of heaven and above, they have homes, and the space on which the house is built differs by the owner's gentleness and how many people he embraces. Especially, those entering New Jerusalem have fully attained spiritual gentleness, so they are given widespread land and large, beautiful homes. These homes will have gardens, lakes, swimming pools, valleys, sports fields, and other amenities for enjoyment. In these homes, people can invite those whom they have harbored, evangelized, and loved to celebrate together to their heart's content. This is the third blessing promised by the Lord. The blessing that the Gentile shall receive. Dear brothers and sisters, in this world, owning a home without inheritance is really challenging. While we generally live 70 to 80 years or 100 years, like owning an apartment, a fancy apartment is like a dream. While we generally live 70 to 80 years or 100 years at best on earth, many dream of large, luxurious places. But how are you preparing for your eternal home in heaven? If you are content with just being saved and just attend church without striving for more, you might end up in the paradise where you live with no home of your own forever. Wouldn't you have regrets? Even though you don't like to yield, give up yourself, and find it burdensome to pray, if you at least make efforts knowing about heaven, you might end up in the first or second kingdom of heaven. But how will you, who know about New Jerusalem, feel when you see your own home? You find how small the land and the house are, and regretfully think, I should have been gentler and embraced more souls and led them to heaven. But this regret will be too late. So, before the Lord returns, we must diligently achieve sanctification and cultivate gentleness to inherit widespread land. As we devote ourselves to evangelizing, praying, and saving many souls, we'll have a large, beautifully adorned homes. Enoch, Abraham, Mary Magdalene, and the Virgin Mary, as well as Moses, who was meeker than all men, and Elijah, whose heart resembled God's most, will receive a huge and beautiful dwelling, looking like a castle as an inheritance. Their homes are like literally a castle. Our forefathers of faith are like that. Why only these individuals? Even today, God is earnestly seeking those who possess a general heart like them. God gives them duties so they can embrace many souls with His heart, save them, and lead them in the truth. And He grants vast land to them in heaven. I pray in the name of the Lord that you will cultivate such a gentle heart and receive great land as your eternal inheritance in heaven. Let's, let's think over the message in our prayer.